Howdy nerds, it's Chloe with her soccer ball that I think is probably older than Buttons. We've had that thing forever. Speaking of Buttons, what are you doing down there? Everyone's hiding and bored. We got the dogs that are just done. They're done with this mess of shipping. They are done with us on day number 2 on Checking Out the Spider-Man. But that's not the point of this video. Today I think I'm going to talk about the glut of TCGs out there. And I do need to make a barometer video again. About which ones I think are going to survive, because I noticed there was like a bunch of, what's it called, Cookie Rush or something? So I had another solicitation for pre-orders for like a new TCG that's coming out. We have Rushify Core that they're starting to push hard. So speaking of Rushify Core, I know I've told people that you had like to have like an upper deck, and that's originally what it was, but it does seem like they've realized that that's not a good, so basically I'd have a contract with upper deck to be able to carry it. So that was basically with sports cards. But it is now going to be distributed through normal hobby distribution, is what I'm hearing. So if you were interested in that card game, which apparently, if people don't remember with Rushify Core, that was the game, I believe, that was having major issues with Lorcana. They accused Lorcana of basically ripping their game off, or having employees that used to work on their game that then switched over to Lorcana. So I'm not sure if that game is going to have legs or not, but the glut of TCGs is going to get very interesting here with the release of Riftbound, which should be coming out pretty soon, correct? I know that I have to take pre-orders now for set number 2, and there's been just a lot of hype for Riftbound, especially since it does have the multiplayer aspect to it. So it's, instead of trying to be a 1v1 competitive game like all these other games that have come out recently, and try to compete in that space, they've looked at Commander from Magic as definitely if you're talking about the most played, probably TCG / format, it would be Commander from Magic the Gathering. So I think it's smart of them. But anyway, with this particular video, I think we're just going to talk about where, maybe I'll just go do a rundown. Maybe we'll do a more thorough video sometime when I do the barometer. I don't know if people are new subscribers. I've done like 2 barometer videos before. It just gives, I go through every one of the TCGs and try to see where I think they're at, whether they're hot or cold right now, and where I think they're going to go in the future. And this is based upon a lot of things. I think, I get a lot of orders, so I wouldn't say that I'm just like pulling these statistics out of thin air. Like, we do get a lot of people messaging us orders. We do run a local game store. I'm not going to claim that I'm an expert here, but I am kind of in the field and do see what's going on. So anyway, this is actually what I want to talk about today, is Flesh and Blood. So Flesh and Blood has actually been doing a lot of things, I think, right. There have been some things in the past that I've been extremely critical of, and unfortunately I don't think their fan base can ever take any sort of criticism at stride. I get a lot of hate messages from people from Flesh and Blood. But this is a game that I used to play clear back during Monarch. I played a Bolton deck, and it was a really fun experience. The problem I have with Flesh and Blood in our area is 2 things. Talk about like everything went to commandification, is what we call in Magic the Gathering. So it was even hard for us to get standard to fire, or even pre-releases of fire. I got so frustrated one time, I can't remember what release it was, that I just threw my hands up in the air with Magic the Gathering, where we tried to run our pre-releases have never not fired, but we tried to get people really hyped about pre-release, and a bunch of people came in, and they got their commander decks, and they got their collector boosters, and left on pre-release night. So they picked up their pre-release kit, they picked up their commander deck they pre-ordered, and they picked up their collector booster, and they left. And I was so livid, because the entire point of a pre-release was to play. And these were people that pre-ordered, because I think that we've done that in the past too. Like, if you are going to be pre-ordering commanders or collectors, then they're going to be allocated mainly to people that are playing in the pre-release, to try to incentivize actually be able to play. And so basically they just came in, picked up their stuff and left, and it was kind of rough for our trying to plan the events and whatnot, having such a poor showing, because no one even cared. Or no, that's what it was. Actually, what it was is they started playing Commander. That's when we're like, we're supposed to be playing a pre-release, and you guys, all sat down, unboxed your commanders, and started playing Commander, and then had no desire to play in the actual pre-release. So anyway, it was at kind of that time period with Flesh and Blood where everything was already starting to funnel into the multiplayer, that we are starting to see more players, what I call join the Borg, of being converted over from 1v1 standard into Commander. And then it was, oh, that's what it was. There's my little story time. It was a Halloween event that we were giving out free pre-release kits from Edge of Eternities, from Innistrad, Midnight Hunt, and Crimson Vow and so it was free. I was giving out, for people that just came in, giving out free pre-release kits, and it was actually combining both the pre-release kits and just creating a deck out of Innistrad, Midnight Hunt, and Crimson Vow. And at that time period, I remember that the pre-release kits were being blown out from distributors for like next to nothing, and so it came to like less than $1 a pack. So it wasn't like the most crazy expense to give out these, all the people that came in for that. But we started to play, and everyone decided they were just going to play Commander instead. Anyway, story time over with that. So let's get back to what I'm talking here with Flesh and Blood. Kind of my experiences around that time period, like Commander really started swallowing up everything, and that's kind of what happened with Flesh and Blood. Is it just kind of just lost all the steam that it had. And there was also the factor of, like, after Monarch and Tales of Aria, the prices of Flesh and Blood absolutely crashed. It was when the first editions began to fail, they overprinted it, and just that nonsense, the kind of the pump and dumping that was happening with Flesh and Blood finally caught up with the game, and it also left that as a bad taste in the mouth. So Flesh and Blood has done a really good job of rebranding itself, and I'm very, 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 very encouraged by this latest thing of actually doing pre-release kits. So they've now taken it to the next step, where there is a pre-release, and we are running a pre-release. You can check our social medias of when we're running this. We already have quite a few people signed up for it. So I think we have a capacity of 16. There are a few slots left of this. So we are going to try to get some people into Flesh and Blood. Right now we're really targeting like the One Piece crowd, because I think that if there's any sort of overlap, it would be with that sort of crowd, rather than really trying to get the Commander players to get interested in Super Slam. Of course, I'll try to get my 1v1 Magic players, but man, talk about people that are old school and have been in, like, they're really kind of stuck in their ways. That's that I say with Standard and like modern players from Magic. I mean, it's fun. It's really, really funny. I don't know how it is in your area too. Is there there's like no overlap right now from between people who play Commander and people that play like Standard. The only overlap I tend to see is like people that are willing to play in pre-release and play Commander, and people willing to play in like limited draft pre-release and play Standard. But it's like those two crowds do not mix whatsoever. So anyway, so yeah, it'll be fun with this Super Slam event, which I am playing in. So I'm just gonna go ahead and crack this my Super Slam Prerelease Kit, and we'll actually take a look at it, since it's been forever since I've even played in Flesh and Blood, or known what it's all about these days. Like, one of my criticisms I had from one of the last sets, of course, was when they were printing generic cards. And I'm starting to have the same kind of problem with One Piece. Like, One Piece has started to print super generic cards like Cavendish, and I know that's kind of an older card, but in this latest set, Bartholomew, in the red Bartholomew, that is just so generic. It goes in every like yellow deck or every blue deck that can run these cards, just run it. And that was kind of my problem with Flesh and Blood, is they kept creating like these generic cards that I thought were just strictly better than any slot. And we're still kind of suffering from cards like Command and Conquer and a few other cards that just feel like they're slotted in so many decks, and it just keeps driving the price up of those particular cards that are actually really, really hard to pull in packs. So I know they need to have chase cards for people to go after. I just wish that they wouldn't like focus them on actually being boring generic cards. So anyway, let's get onto this. I'm going to open this up, and I am kind of excited to play in this event, and it will be definitely a good experience to kind of get my bearings back in the game and see how well I enjoy it. So for all of you that were hoping that I'd give this game another shot, here you go. A little bit about this too is I did kind of rage sell all of our Flesh and Blood, so we actually don't even have a lot of Flesh and Blood in stock at the moment here. But we are going to, I guess, start hopefully restocking this in the future and try to get these games going. So anyways, I don't think there's any difference between the packs, correct? So it looks like a pre-release kit is going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So there's 8 packs in a pre-release kit, and then you do get a packet of cards that I believe are just the generic equipment to basically guarantee that your character can have what it needs to actually function. So with the Helm of Insight, the Garland Spring, yeah, generic equipment, generic head, generic arms, generic legs, and I guess these are going to be the promos. So they don't look like they're cold foils. So there's regular rainbow foils. I think that's what it is on there, or maybe they're just like a specialty promo here. And we have Brute Actions, Guardian Actions. So are these the heroes too? Yeah, okay. So it does give you the 2 heroes that are probably from this set. So you actually do have, again, I'll have to read on exactly how this works with pre-release. One thing I can say about One Piece is I wasn't too impressed with One Piece in the pre-release. I felt like everyone just played the same cards, and since you were playing all the generic Luffy, it just felt very samey. So people with bombs definitely had a huge edge over people. I mean, it did have, like, people that knew what they were doing with deck building definitely had an advantage, but yeah, it did feel very like everyone was playing samey deck with bombs. So hopefully, like, Flesh and Blood's a little bit different how it works with the pre-release, where you get enough variety. So looks like you do have some generic actions to take, or these tokens. These are generic tokens. Okay, so I guess you pick which side. I'm not exactly. Oh, these can be split. Okay, I get it. They can be split down the center. So. The Old Leather and Vim. That must be our promo from the pre-release pack. Must come with promos. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and kind of look at these things. Typically, I don't do a lot of box openings on this channel. Maybe this will actually be interesting for people. We have the Guardian. We have the Revered Guardian, which must be a new type, and Reviled. So what gives Revered and Reviled, which are like subtypes like Light and I know, again, it's been forever. I apologize too if I don't know exactly how Flesh and Blood has morphed over the years. So let's just kind of go through these. Yep, it does look like Revered and Reviled, and of course then there's just like Guardians, so they don't have to go in specifically like a Revered or Reviled. So basically your character needs to match these, like one of them, like Guardian can go in any Guardian deck, but Revered can only go in a character that's Revered. And if you had something that's like Revered Guardian, then it would have to go in something that was Revered Guardian. That's exactly how I'm remembering it, if I remember correctly. So it does seem like it is between Brute and Guardian. And possibly that's the only thing in this set, is just 2 leaders that are going to... I thought they used to do like 4 leaders per set. So our first little foil here is the Edge of Seats. And then we get a S, which I can't remember what that is. Is that Super, or that's been forever since I've even remember the rarities of Flesh and Blood with the Steel Victory. When this defends, steal an Aura token the attacking hero controls. That's actually kind of cool. I wonder how good these Auras are, if that's actually something that is... so this is a Reviled Brute, so it does need to go in it, and it also needs to defend to be able to do that. And then we have the Chest Puff. I think this is just... Oh, it's a rare, because sometimes, yeah, you can get like 2 slots of rares in here with the Chest Puff. So, alrighty, let's go ahead and open up the next one. We have the Vigor. Okay, so these little split tokens are in here as well. And then, again, let's kind of get onto the neater stuff. I don't know how people can see this in the light. Probably chose the wrong room to do a box opening with. But, again, I guess we can go back to kind of my older topic here is with Riftbound coming out. Like it is, so Lorcana does seem to be also trying to rebrand. I don't know exactly how well it's going to go. I've been talking to both the manufacturers and distributors about Fabled. So Fabled actually did have a wonky release. They only had enough product for people doing the pre-release, but there were some very suspect accounts on TCG Player that were able to, like, most stores had like 4 to like 20 available, like people that were actually selling on TCG Player, and there was one suspicious account that had over 500 that blew them out for like 120. And so everyone else on TCG Player was selling them like 150s. And then there's just one account that just blew out like hundreds of boxes. So I don't know what that's all about, Lorcana. If people are distributors or the manufacturer itself is using these accounts to basically push product through at like a higher price than they could sell to distributors or stores. I don't know how it's working, but again, there's some wonky stuff with Lorcana. But speaking of which, like I honestly do think when Riftbound comes out that it's going to be either Star Wars or Lorcana that actually gets hit the most from Riftbound coming out of actually taking from its player base. Now, again, League of Legends Riftbound is a TCG that's focused more on multiplayer, but I also think that Star Wars and Lorcana are based most upon basically the player bases of those IPs, like people that are Disney fans, people that are Star Wars fans. You got to think that there is a certain amount in each of those that are also League of Legends fans. And at this point, like I started off with the video, there's just so much glut with so many TCGs that I think at some point people are going to have to make a decision on what games they are going to play. Speaking of which, I had suggest someone come in and sell all of their One Piece today because they're like, you know, our group, it was stretched so thin, we were playing so many games, and that was the game we decided that we were going to give up playing and give up collecting because there's too much out there. All right, so we have the Cries of Encore. So we get our first M. When this attacks, a hero, if you have less life than them, the crowd cheers for you. If you've been cheered this turn, this gets, when it hits a hero, you may play an Aura of Suspense. That's kind of cool. So it is starting to use the other zones a lot more than I remember from playing from the discard pile and whatnot. So see if we get anything also that's insanely cool in here. Here we got another S with the 2 steps ahead. At the start of your turn, destroy this, and then create a confidence and 3 might tokens. So again, it seems like this set is going to focus a lot on tokens. Again, this was something when I used to play was not. Came into effect every now and again with a few characters, but for the most part it did not. So it looks like this, like a lot of these cards been reading, runs with them. So I'd like to know in the comment section too, which game you think is in the worst shape of being susceptible for like this, or are we still going to have this ecosystem where trading cards continue to be so, and trading card games continue to be so hot? I just have been in this market for so long, 10 plus years of running a store, and then beyond that, being very, very involved in the Magic the Gathering community and being around vendors and whatnot, that I know that these markets go in massive swings, and I just can't see this many TCGs actually being able to survive at the rate that they are doing right now and still have the kind of veracity of people actually purchasing the product at the levels they are. And here you go, maybe Flesh and Blood. The thing that I can say about you Flesh and Blood players, that I hope you take as a compliment, is you do have a very, 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 very loyal community so far that tends to love this game and have been sticking with this game for a long time. And that is a good, it's got like more than the grassroots foundation of it. It's actually got where you now have your core audience that is willing to keep going with this game as long as they keep creating a good product. So can Flesh and Blood, that's the big thing. They've been having like 2,000, 3,000 player events. If they can keep up with that and actually get new blood in it, I think that it does have legs, and I actually don't think it's very susceptible to League of Legends compared to the other things that are coming out. Alrighty, so let's go on to our second to last pack, and then we'll get back to shipping all that Spider-Man, as Talmadge has probably ticked at me for taking a break and recording a video. But joke's on you, Talmadge. You're the one that makes me want to, or keep telling me I have to record more videos, so you can't be choosy of when I do it. Alrighty, so we have a Mocking Blow, and we get another Overcrowded, or actually this is another M in here. So Ambush, when this attacks or defends, it gets +1 or +1 shield for each different name among Aura tokens in the arena. So it definitely wants a lot of Auras out there. And of course we're asking for trouble. That's what I'm doing by not shipping off orders. I'm gonna be here till Sunday night at this rate of getting all these Spider-Man out. All right, so last pack here. This will be interesting to see which character I'll end up going with. And we have, it doesn't seem to be, there's only the 2 characters though, right? There might be some characters you can only get out of the packs, and if you happen to pull in, but again, I haven't looked at any spoilers, and again, forgive me. This is just not my jam. I haven't played Flesh and Blood in years. So again, it's going to be quite fun, refreshing to try to figure out the game again and see if I remember all the mechanics and how well we'll do. And it's going to be a really cool experience here locally as well, because it'll be all basically brand new players. I think there's a couple of us who have played Flesh and Blood in the past, but for the most part, it's going to be people that have not experienced it before. And as I said, I think the one demographic I think that is the most able to maybe embrace this would be the One Piece crowd, because the games kind of play out. They're both kind of fighting games rather than like big board state games. I don't know, with all these R's, maybe Flesh and Blood has turned into a big board state game. The blocking's very similar, like using counters from your hand or using cards from your hand from Flesh and Blood. But I know there is some major differences, so I don't want to offend all the Flesh and Blood players by trying to compare it to something that definitely has a less of a learning curve as something like One Piece. So yeah, so speaking of One Piece, we have One Piece tonight too, so I better get shipping off stuff if I'm going to be able to play in the One Piece, which is funny because this is the thing this is the night I'm most excited about. So, I always love to draft in Magic the Gathering. I love to look forward to pre-releases, but Wednesday night is definitely like mine and Talmadge's jam now. We're like looking at One Piece spoilers. We're watching One Piece videos of people playing decks. We're trying to figure out what new leader, and that's what's really cool about One Piece too. You've actually seen a lot of prices go up with what I call the utility cards, where people are actually playing cards in One Piece. And you can definitely see like, oh, people are testing out this new deck, and then you'll see some of these older cards that didn't people didn't have any interest in. It will get like a card printed in it, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, maybe this deck is viable again, and all those cards around it will spike up. And so it's just a really cool, like Talmadge and I were talking about, One Piece just has an amazing energy right now of people playing cards, wanting, and same thing, what I used to love about Magic is people would, like Commander players especially, I think Commander players kind of saved Magic because they were the ultimate consumers. They bought cards and then they put them in a Commander deck, and they were very reluctant to break apart the Commander deck. From my walks around the block in this industry for quite some time, that wasn't true with Modern and Standard players. If something rotated or a deck fell out of favor, Standard players would cannibalize their cards in 2 seconds. I used to make a good profit off of Standard and Modern players because they were so fickle. I mean, I would sell the same cards back to them so many times because they would do that. They'd like, oh, I don't want to play this deck anymore. Something changed in the meta. I'm going to cannibalize my Tron deck, and then like a Tron card would be printed, and then the same Tron player would come back and buy all their Tron cards and redo Tron in Modern. And where Commander, that wasn't really the case. Like Commander players, they build their decks. They have this nostalgia to their deck. Even if they never play their deck again, they still like are reluctant to break it apart. And I can say kind of the same thing about One Piece. Like people that play One Piece, on average, usually have, like, I would say a dozen decks at this point of all the different leaders that they've tried. And that's kind of where we're getting to, because, you know, I did finally break apart some starter decks. I'm like, I'm never going to play the starter deck, but, you know, what am I up to myself? So I have Nami, I've got Charlotte Katakuri, I've got Dofi, I've got Kuzan, I've got Ace. So I guess I'm up to 5 that I play, that I've played recently or still actually like care about. So anyway, hope you guys kind of enjoyed this more off the cuff where I'm not like even talking too much shop. And if you enjoyed this type of video, of course, give it a like and subscribe, and comment in the comment section below about, you know, what's going on at your local game store, what you'd like to see us kind of try more here. I know we're in a very unique situation here, as we really do have to, I think, work a lot harder than most people in urban areas of like organizing different games and really being the cheerleaders of games, as usually like I wish we had a higher population here and we could get some people excited. Like One Piece, I have to give shout outs to like Fabian, that really got the One Piece community going here and really encouraged me to try it and play it and put it upon themselves. They started a Discord, they started a text message, and like make sure that everyone's here and got other people in it. Like I really wish that, you know, if people were interested in like Lorcana here or Pokemon here, really getting those going again in the play aspect of it, that they would take that helm on, because it really takes a lot of pressure off game store owners if you have people in the community that are willing to do that and kind of take up that helm. So pro tip to all of you that are involved with like a local game store, if you have your local game store, they could really use, like I said, some, if they're open to it. I know that some game stores are pretty much hands off and just like work on window shopping, which makes me incredibly jealous. I wish I had the population size where people just came in and I could pay someone minimum wage at a cash register and they could come in and buy a product and be like, yep, in and out. Now I have to have table space and interaction and all that stuff. But at the same time, the whole point to a local game store is, in my opinion, I mean, that's what makes you better than just your regular old shop that sells whatever, is the interaction and kind of the joy that kind of TCGs bring. So anyway, rambled a lot here. I'm gonna get back to shipping. Thanks for watching.